On this week's show, I've got some big news, some big sales, and I'm going to ask you for some big money. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to a long overdue episode number 301 of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan. It's been a minute, especially for those of you who are podcast listeners. I've had a couple of you reach out, and I want to apologize in particular to the podcast folks. It's probably been a month since you heard anything from me. I did a couple of YouTube lives, and then I did a video kind of explaining what was going on here a couple of weeks ago, that I was taking a break and reevaluating kind of what I wanted to do. But there's no easy way other than like posting an actual podcast to communicate with podcast listeners. Like on YouTube, when I decided a couple of weekends to not do a show, I just put a community post up and people were able to see it. There's really nothing like that for podcasts, so I do apologize for having just gone AWOL for a month. And I want to thank everyone who either commented on that video from a couple of weeks ago or who reached out either on Instagram or directly by email. Some of you, some even podcast listeners, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, had some really interesting messages and some really keen observations from some folks. But all the kind words and all the support, and I really want everyone to know how much I appreciate that, how much it meant to me. It was, I felt, to be fair, it was something I probably needed to do earlier, and I didn't because I didn't want to let you guys down. But it finally just reached a point where I had to make a change, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, is what those changes for this channel look like. But the first thing I wanted to do is to make sure that I thanked all of you, and to thank all of you who made it clear you're going to stick around. My subscriber numbers on YouTube are flat over the last like 2+ weeks. I've lost a couple and I gained a couple, somehow even announcing I was going on a hiatus. So I really appreciate the fact that you've kind of stuck with it while I sorted out what I wanted to do here. So this isn't really breaking news, but I want to run the graphic. So let's get into what's going to change.
News updates.
So speaking of news, one of the ways that I'm going to make a change here on the channel is I'm going to scale this thing way back. And one of the things I'm going to scale back is, unfortunately, it's probably one of the things that most of you appreciated most about this channel, and that's the reselling news piece of it. I talked about it in the video that I did a couple of weeks ago, that the news was, it is what it is. It's just a constant drip of negativity. And I found that it was affecting my mood and my willingness to dive into it, and to impacting my life in other ways, which I probably shouldn't have let it. But just the constant, the glitches and the problems, and those things don't go away just because I'm not going to talk about them that much anymore. But for me, it had gotten to be really a burden, and it seemed in the end to be, I don't want to say pointless, but it was frustrating for no reason, because in a lot of cases, those glitches and problems get addressed and they get fixed and life goes on. And I did a video a month or so ago about reasons I think people should be selling on eBay, that despite all the flaws, it allows me to live the kind of life that I want to live, to kind of come and go as I please. This morning I did a few listings, then I went on a bike ride, then I came back and did some more work. And the ability to do that at this point in my life is a blessing, and constantly having to talk about all the stuff that's wrong, not just with eBay, but with all the sites, just got to be a drag on my attitude towards reselling in general. So I'm taking a step back from that piece of it. When there are big, important updates that I think are relevant, I will talk about them, but it's not going to be the daily minutia of whatever happens to be wrong at any given moment. I could do a show literally every day. And God love her, Liz over at Value Added Resource has articles literally every day. And if you're not following her and her site, please go do that. She is a terrific resource for that reselling news. But I could do a show every day just based on the stuff that she puts out. But a lot of it, for me, just isn't super relevant to what I'm doing in my day-to-day business, and I'm not sure it is for a lot of you either. So dwelling on kind of those little things is just something I'm going to take a step back from. Again, if there's a big topic, big changes, fee increases, whatever the case may be, those are things that are important and relevant, and I will definitely make an effort to cover those. But I'm not going to do kind of this big broad brush of everything that went wrong on eBay this week. I just can't do it. The other thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to get off of the regularly scheduled show. I was pretty consistent, other than a couple of breaks, about doing shows every Monday. And that got to be, I started this channel because I thought it would be fun. And it got to be work for me. And that I need to make it fun again. And I think one of the ways I can do that is to work it on my schedule. When I have something that I really want to say, or I have some really big sales that I really want to share, or there's something going on that I feel is really important that people need to know about, or I just feel like making a video, I want to be able to do that. But I'm going to take the self-inflicted pressure of having to meet a Monday morning deadline every week off of myself and not do a regularly scheduled show. You may get a show every Monday. You may get a live every Wednesday. You may go 2 or 3 weeks without a show if I just don't feel like doing one, or there's just not anything really I want to talk about. I don't know what that's going to look like just yet, but I am going to take that step back from the regular, let's be fair, this is not my job. I've been doing YouTube now for 5+ years, and over that 5+ years, this channel has grossed maybe $1,000. So it's not about the money. So it's not my job. My full-time job is actually doing the reselling piece of it, and I want to spend more time doing that and doing some other things that we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes. I had a listener that reached out, as I mentioned earlier, who noticed, and the astute of you watching on YouTube may notice, there's no fancy microphone in front of me here. And he had gone on my Instagram. He noticed that I hadn't done a show in a few weeks and got on my Instagram and saw that I was still around, but I wasn't doing anything. And he follows my eBay store, and he got on there and he saw a lot of podcasting equipment. Over the years, I've spent thousands of dollars on equipment because it was cool and it was fun, and it gave this show kind of a cool, interesting, professional look and sound that maybe some of them didn't have. But in the end, I've decided I want to invest that money maybe into something else, which we're going to get into here in a minute. So I kept one fairly nice little webcam. I kept my handy little stream deck that I've got down here. And I kept these wireless Hollyland Lark M2 microphones that I can use. I can use this setup. It's portable. I can move it anywhere that I want to work, rather than having a really expensive camera setup and 8 microphones, they were cool. I collected them. It was overkill. So all of that stuff, I completely tore down the studio. All of that stuff, a lot of it is already sold. The rest of it is currently in my eBay store. So if you're looking for some really nice XLR microphones, microphone cables, you're looking for a little webcam, looking for Rodecaster Pro 2, that is over there. The teleprompter is already sold. A couple of the mics have already sold, but I'm scaling that stuff back to make this show just a little easier to manage. I'm not messing with all the sound effects, and you'll still have the graphics because I can do that all in StreamYard, but I've made some big changes to my workflow here, hopefully to make this a little more manageable for me. And as I said, to invest that money elsewhere. I've talked a lot about on this show and especially on my Instagram about my cycling. And someone suggested in the live video a couple of weeks ago that they would be interested in seeing some of my rides. And that is something that I have thought about doing for a number of years. So I have actually started another YouTube channel. Yay me. Cycling with Ryan. You can find it on YouTube. It is cycling with Ryan. There's also a new Instagram, cycling with Ryan, because you can't use dashes on Instagram, oddly. But I've taken some of the money that I've already made from selling off some of this podcast equipment, and I've invested in some cameras and some stuff for my cycling, and I'm going to try my hand at making some cycling riding videos over there and just see how that goes. I ride, as I have mentioned here, I'm up to almost 3,000 miles already this year. I ride 4, 5, 6 times a week sometimes, and I'm going to start capturing those rides as I venture out Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky on some of the rail trails and some of the other bike paths, and I'm going to share that. So if you would be interested in that, there will be a link in the show notes and the video description down below. You can go subscribe to that channel if you're a cyclist and just want to see all the places that I ride. And I do, because I said I was going to ask you for money, I want to play you just a little clip of the first video that I've made on that channel, which went live this morning, where I talk about my efforts to raise money for the Great Cycle Challenge. So I'm not going to play you that whole video. I'm just going to play you a short clip of that so you can get an idea, and that's where I'm going to ask you for some money. There will be a QR code there in that video if you'd like to contribute. No amount is too small, no amount is too large either to contribute to help me raise funds for the Children's Cancer Research Fund. But with all that having been said, let's play that clip and then we'll come back here with some What Sold. Hey everybody, welcome to Cycling with Ryan and my Great Cycle Challenge 2025 kickoff video. My name is Ryan, and on this channel I cover, or I'm going to cover since it's a new channel, my cycling rides throughout Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and beyond. There's a dedicated playlist just for my 2025 Great Cycle Challenge, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'm going to be sharing my rides throughout the month of September and updates about what's going on with the challenge and my personal fundraising. This is my 4th year doing the challenge. So far this year I've raised about $600, and over the course of the life of my participation in this program, I've raised about $8,300 for the Children's Cancer Research Fund. This year, with your help, I'd like to set a new personal record. So how can you help? Well, you may have noticed there's a big QR code on the screen right now that you can scan to go directly to my donation page, and please give if you can. If you can't do that, I totally understand, but there are some other things that you could do that would help me out. First, you could like this video so that it would be recommended to more people here on the wonderful world of YouTube. That would be awesome. If you're into cycling videos, I've got big plans for this channel despite not having any videos up yet. I've got some equipment coming, so if that's your jam, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. Lastly, if you could, share this video with anyone else that you think might appreciate it and might be willing to contribute to this really, really great cause. I appreciate it very much. If you're not familiar with the Children's Cancer Research Fund and the Great Cycle Challenge, let's get into it a little bit. All right, let me know in the comments what you think of that. And again, if it's something that you would be interested in watching, please go subscribe to that channel and follow me on Instagram, cycling_with_Ryan. There will be a link to that as well in the show notes and the video description down below to make it as easy as possible for you. I've been posting a lot of cycling stuff to the main Galaxy CDs Rocks Instagram, and I'm going to kind of move all of that over to this other account just to keep it clean. So again, if that's something you're interested in, go check out the channel. Feel free to subscribe, help me get a little bit of a jump start on that channel over there. So with all that out of the way, let's actually talk about some reselling. It's been a while since we did a What Sold recap, so I had actually stored up probably 30 or 40 things in my normal $20 and up type stuff. That seems a bit overkill for the last month, so let's just do my top 10 sales for the last month. All right, this first item sold over on eBay. In fact, I think everything on this is going to be from eBay. I don't think I had anything that made like the top 10. I had a lot of stuff on Etsy like under $50, but that was kind of the cutoff to make the top 10 for this last 3 or 4 weeks. This first book, A World Can End by Irina Skariatina from 1931, an illustrated hardcover that was inscribed by the author, a first edition hardcover. This sold on a best offer, outgoing best offer, for $52.49. The buyer paid a total of $61.92 that included shipping and tax. I paid $8.93 in fees, $4.40 in promoted listing fees. 50 cents was my cost of goods sold. This was part of a big bulk purchase, so that's a pretty nice flip with a net profit of $38.66. This next item, this was a really cool, I've got several more of these, and I've talked about bound magazines in the past. You don't find them a lot, but when I do, I almost always grab them. I don't even really care a lot of times what the topic is. These were Organic Gardening and Farming. This was volume 1, numbers 1 through 12. So this was the whole first year of this Rodale Press Organic Gardening magazine from January to December of 1954. I picked these up at an estate sale along with another bunch of bound magazines, different than this, in the same kind of vein, but a different actual magazine, for $2 a piece. They were in an attic, just thrown in a box. Nobody was even looking at them. I saw what appeared to be binders with labels on them. I'm like, that's my jam right there. So I went over and took a look and grabbed a bunch of them. This thing sold for $59.99. So this is 12 magazines in a binder from Rodale Press, Organic Gardening and Farming. The order total with shipping was $71.22. I paid $10.21 in fees, $5.06 for the promoted listing fee. Again, the cost of goods sold just $2. Net profit $44.97. This book I've had for a long time, but it was worth hanging on to. I had it listed for $99.99, finally sold on sale for $74.99. This is The Game of Nations, The Amorality of Power Politics by Miles Copeland, not the drummer for the Police, from 1969. Hardcover in its dust jacket. Dust jacket's got some wear on it. It's not in fantastic condition, but a really hard to find book. I priced it high because I was the only one at the time I listed it that had a dust jacket on it, so I had it at $99.99. It is in one of my sales that I'm running this month and sold for $74.99 plus shipping. Buyer's total was $87 with shipping and tax, $12.38 in fees, $6.18 in promoted listing fees. This was part of the big 15,000 book lot from a couple of summers ago, so my cost of goods sold was a whopping 4 cents. Net profit, $56.39. Here's one that was free to me. Yeah, I've got it on there as a cost of goods sold at 4 cents, but this was actually free. This is Black Players, The Secret World of Black Pimps by Christina and Richard Milner. Hardcover in its dust jacket from the late 1970s, if I'm not mistaken. This was part of a free book pickup. Really interesting old book, literally about pimps and prostitution in the late 1980s. This sold for, at a discount, $74.99. I don't know why they offered just $5 off, but we'll take it. $74.99 plus shipping. Order total $87. $12.38 in fees, $6.18 in promoted listing fees. Again, no cost of goods sold. This was free. Net profit $56.39. I think I got a couple of these coming up. I talked about these several weeks ago. I was at a sale and picked up some old Unix Bell manuals. This is the Bell System Technical Journal, Volume 57, Number 6, Part 2, Unix Time Sharing from July and August of 1978. These were listed for $99.99. I got an offer on this one for $81 plus shipping, which I went ahead and accepted. Order total $93.40. Fees $13.26. Again, promoted listing fee $6.63. Cost of goods sold $1.54 on this as part of a big purchase. I think I bought 40 or 50 books at that sale, along with a couple of other things. Net profit $59.57. Hold your beer on that one. I got another one of those coming up here right now. The same exact thing with a different color cover. This was lot number 2. This one sold for full price, $99.99 plus shipping. This one actually sold to someone over in Europe. They paid some enormous fees to get this thing shipped over there. It doesn't reflect in the eBay totals because eBay only pays you for the domestic portion of the shipping to get the thing to their shipping center. But this sold for full price, $99.99. Order total was $126.46 that I saw, again, plus the additional on the international shipping, $14.91 in fees, $7.48 promoted listings fees. You notice all this stuff sold through promoted listings. $1.54 cost of goods sold on this one as well. Total costs $50.40. Net profit $76.06. Cool book. I've had this for a little while, not quite a year. It managed to get out of here at full price. Dictionary of the Bible, complete in one volume by James Hastings. It's from 1914. This is a pretty big book, probably 13 by 10, but it was printed in 1914 on India paper, which is the real light kind of parchmenty type paper that you normally would find in a Bible. Normally these dictionaries are just on regular paper and they end up being massive volumes. This was printed on that real thin India paper, so it's a really unusual piece. This was part of a big lot of books that I bought. Gosh, it's probably been 6 months ago now. I'm into this for 38 cents. It sold for $99.99 plus shipping. Buyer's total $113.12, $15.98 in fees, $8.30 for the promoted listing fee. Again, that 38 cents cost of goods sold. Net profit on this one, $75.33. I've talked about the sale that I was at. This is probably coming up on a year ago now, where when I walked in, out of the corner of my eye, the door was opened. I walked in and saw kind of behind the door a set of bookshelves. So I closed the door and started looking through that set of bookshelves and found a bunch of really nice hardcover books on the history of kind of Black America and the civil rights movement that nobody was looking at. They were $2 a piece. Some really, really great stuff there, a lot of which we've already talked about in these What Sold segments. This is another one that sold, From the Dead Level, Malcolm X and Me by Hakeem A. Jamal. First U.S. edition, second printing. I wonder what a first printing would have brought on this. Hardcover in its dust jacket, in fairly good condition. A little bit of discoloration on the top of the dust jacket, but overall in really nice shape for a book from the, I want to say, the early 1970s. This sold for $149.99 plus shipping. The buyer's total was $164.70. $23.08. No promoted listing fee on this one. Yay, I love it. I did pay a couple extra dollars to insure this book because it was over $100, so my shipping cost was a little higher than what the buyer paid. Again, cost of goods sold $2. My net profit on this one, $122.91. No money in books. Here's another interesting one. This is a custom listing. So I had someone that reached out. I had a bunch of copies of the, what are they? The Harvard library books, the Harvard Classics. And these were from, I want to say 1903. They were a numbered limited edition library edition set of these. It was not a complete set when I bought them at the sale. I paid a couple of bucks a piece for these in varying states of distress. Some of them were in pretty good shape. Some of them, the spines were, they were leather bound on the spines and the leather had cracked and peeled. So they were kind of a mixed bag, but they were at $2 a piece. They were super cheap. It was a set, again, numbered, limited edition. These were numbered in the mid 100s out of 500 of these that were ever made. I've sold a few of them previously individually. I had a customer that reached out on one particular and asked how many of them I had and how much I would sell them for. At the time, they were on sale for $17.99 a piece, something like that. And I told him if he bought them all 13 of them in the conditions in which they were pictured, I would sell them to him for $200, plus I would combine them all, of course, into one package for shipping. He thought that sounded like a good deal. I thought that sounded like a great deal. So that's what we did. This guy bought 13 copies of the Harvard Classics Library Editions from the early 1900s for $200 plus shipping. His total was $227.13. I paid $31.68. No promoted listing fees. I think that's because I created a new custom listing, which he bought. And for whatever reason, it didn't get caught up in the halo thing that they do. So no promoted listing fee on that, which was awesome. Shipping was the $27.13. Cost of goods sold, $2 a piece, $26. Net profit, $142.32. And here's some of that podcasting equipment. I said I kept one fairly nice webcam. And I have my other webcam that I used primarily for Whatnot, which is currently for sale. But I sold my primary camera, which was a Canon EOS M50 Mark I with the 15 to 45 millimeter stem lens, the standard lens that came with the camera. I did have an extra battery for it, and I had the compact power adapter so I could just plug it in so I didn't have to use batteries when I was using it as a YouTube camera. I paid, when I bought this camera 5 years ago, $599.99 plus tax. The extra battery was like 15 bucks on eBay. Score one. And the power adapter was like $25. The camera, when I bought it, came with an extra microphone with a Rode VideoMic Go, which I sold years ago for about 50 bucks. This camera sold with those extra accessories for $429.99. Buyer paid $13 in shipping, so the order total $442.99. I paid $37.68 in fees. I recorded this as no cost of goods sold because that was already accounted for as an expense for me when I bought it to set up the YouTube studio. So my net profit on this was $394.38. So let's call it $400. I originally paid maybe $700 total for the camera, the extra battery, the power adapter. And I've made, we'll call it a little over $400 in profit, having sold the microphone previously. So over the course of 5 years, I used that camera for not even $4 a month, probably. Really held its value incredibly well. Super, super excited to have made that kind of money on that camera, which of course was invested almost immediately into a new camera that I'm going to put on the bike. So that's kind of where we're going. That's your what sold recap for the last month. Tons of stuff that sold between $20 and $50 that I normally would have talked about, but in an effort to keep this reasonably short and sweet, which is my new goal as well, to not spend hours down here doing these. We just went with the top 10, and it was a pretty good top 10. There'll be some more podcasting equipment that'll be popping up over the next couple of weeks as I catch up on those items that have sold. But again, I want to thank everybody for sticking around, for the comments and the sharing of your thoughts and your appreciation for what this channel has meant over the years. I hope I can continue to live up to that, even if it's not on as regular a basis as has been in the past. Another note on that I didn't talk about, I didn't have a ton. I think I had 4 members, but I did cancel YouTube memberships. Since I'm not going to be consistently doing the show, I felt it was unfair of me to ask people to continue to contribute. I mean, it was only $5 a month, so it wasn't breaking the bank, but it didn't feel right to me to continue to collect membership fees when I may go a couple of weeks without doing a show. So for those of you who were members, I appreciate the fact that you were members for, in some cases, well over a year, and that you made that contribution to the channel. If you'd like to continue to do that, you can leave me super thanks or whatever. That would be awesome. I would appreciate it. But I just didn't feel right leaving the memberships up when it may be weeks sometimes between shows. I'll try not to do that. I'll try to be fairly regular. But like I said, I'm not going to hold myself to an every Monday schedule. Again, please be sure to check out my other new channel, Cycling with Ryan, if you're interested in cycling and just seeing kind of ride along videos. I'm not going to do like a lot of tech reviews and that kind of stuff over there. It's not really my bag. I just go out and ride, and I want to take videos of kind of the interesting stuff you see along the way. You never know what you're going to run into out there on the bike path. So if that's something you'd be interested in, please go check that out. Again, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time. And until next time, my friends, it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.